Welcome, everybody. We are very pleased to see all of you coming in as usual. You're all very loyal and very encouraging. We see people from Egypt, Germany, France, Italy, of course, the United States, South America. Thank you for logging in. We really appreciate you joining us for this 45 minutes or so. I am Gustavo Tolosa. I'm the host for the weekly webinars with Dr. McDougall, and Dr. McDougall is very kind to give this time every week for all of you to benefit and to hear him and to ask questions. And today he's in, as usual, in Santa Rosa, California. I'm in Dallas, Texas, and we're just going to have a great time talking about a topic that all of you have asked many times. So here it is. Dr. McDougall, welcome to today's live from with Dr. McDougall. And how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. We have a nice sunny day here in Santa Rosa, California. And let's see. No, Mary and I have been working hard. Every day we say, no, we're going to relax. We did get a chance to drive out to the coast a couple of days ago, and we enjoy doing that in the Pacific Ocean. But I don't know, it's probably that way in all of your lives too. You think, well, sometimes I think I have nothing to do, and I ended up filling the whole day. And sometimes I think I have too much to do to fill the day, but I get it done, and it just seems to be the way it is. But no, everything's going well. I would like to start out with just a couple of things that have still been coming up here. And one new thing that came up, and people are still writing me about this potato intake and the incidence of hypertension, results of 3 prospective U.S. cohort studies, the nurses studies and the health professional studies. And this is published in the British Medical Journal. It's open access, so you can go look at it yourself at the article. And people are thinking that this means potatoes are a problem. This is why you're sick, because of potatoes. This article looks at potato consumption in its usual form, which is French fries, the leading use of potatoes, potato chips, maybe mashed potatoes with cream and butter in them, maybe baked potatoes with the usual toppings of bacon bits, and one of the lead things that I told you last time, one of the lead things to note, which will help you understand that this is not about eating potatoes. This is about eating the condiments that come with the potatoes and the way that they produce the potatoes, and more importantly, this is a marker for people who eat lousy diets and are sick. And it says so right here in the paper under results. It says participants who consumed 4 or more servings a week of any type of potatoes were, in general, less physically active and smoked more than participants who consumed less than 1 serving a week. In other words, it says right here in the article that it's fat people who don't exercise, who abuse themselves with cigarettes, who are going to fast food restaurants and ordering French fries, and that's what they're looking at. It says so right in the results. And these people are sicker people. And one of the signs of being sick is you have high blood pressure. You could show an article like that. And in fact, I think my memory serves me that there are articles that say potato eaters are fatter and have more chances of diabetes. And it's the same kind of observational confounding research where unhealthy people, they eat out a lot at cheap restaurants and consume bags full of French fries, potato chips, and go to all the junk food places, and they're fat and sick. And they pick on the lowly potato. And as I showed you last time, I know you don't want to see this again, but I have books and books and books on potatoes, and they tell you the paramount importance of the potato in human history, and how potato has saved the world many times over. And if you read about the potato and the role it was played, as opposed to this headline-getting British Medical Journal article, which has nothing to do about potatoes, I mean, really eating potatoes, you'll see the value of this tuber. It is highly productive as far as land is concerned. You can grow a tremendous amount of calories, high protein, high vitamin, As I told you last time, it's anti-scurvy. Somebody challenged me and said that you lose all the vitamin C when you cook potatoes, but that just plain and simple isn't true. I mean, there's some vitamin lowering when you do cook foods, some of the vitamins, but there's plenty of C in potatoes. Just look it up on the internet. It's easy to find. I've told you malnutrition was stopped in Europe in the 1700s when the potato was introduced from South America. And the population of Ireland doubled in 40 years once the potato was introduced. If any food I was to choose to live on the rest of my life, it would be the potato, as The Martian did. Exactly. Go see The Martian, Matt Damon's movie. I mean,
it's just proved, like you said, over and over, and people get confused because there's some article and some study that comes out every single day, and. Yes.
Well, there was one this week, too, that I just want to comment on. It's only because, I get so many letters from you folks, emails. You email me directly, and all of you know how to do that. And you email me because you're upset about potatoes causing high blood pressure, even though deep down inside you know that can't be true. And you want me to respond to it. And this week in The Guardian, which is a British publication, they carried an article which talked about why people are sick in Europe, in England, the United Kingdom, the United States, and around the world. And what they said, it's because they're eating carbohydrates. And of course, the way they get around this big fat lie is they're talking about, well, people eat a lot of sugar, drink a lot of sugary beverages. Yes, they do. But carbohydrates, in my mind, are traditional foods of people. They're the foods that the 9.5 billion of the 10 billion people who walk planet Earth have consumed. These are starches. Before 1980, 90% of the food in China came from rice. The people of the corn are the Aztecs and the Mayans.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden did a food that nourished human beings for, you pick the number, but I would guess Homo sapiens have been around for 250,000 years, maybe 750,000. Humanoids, pre-humans, pre-Homo sapiens, at least 4 million years. The scientific literature clearly says that these people were primarily gatherers. Only a few populations of people ate high meat diet, like the Inuit Eskimos, which I've discussed. Well, anyways, this article came out this week in The Guardian, which is well read, and I sent it to all of you. If you're on my mailing list, you have it. It was sent out in The Guardian, which blames the low-fat diet for causing obesity, diabetes, and heart disease. And this is put out by an organization called the National Obesity Forum. Okay, the National Obesity Forum. It really sounds like a great title. But then I also put for you a link to the funding for this organization. And it's funded by the Meat Nutrition Educational Services. Now, what do you think that organization does? It's funded by at least 3 drug companies, a weight loss business, and a bunch of other people who would like to keep the population confused. Keep the population confused.
Business, and more business.
It's terrible. And then they have a spokesperson, which I've been aware of for at least 5 years. He's a very brash young man who is said to be a cardiologist. I haven't really looked into his credentials. And he gets a lot of press. And he's been in the British Medical Journal. And so anyway, he gets a lot of attention. And his name is Asim Malhotra. I think that's good enough pronunciation. And so I sent out an article to you with his picture. And what I did is I said, you ought to start thinking about this man. He works for this charity, by the way, which is supported by the drug industries and meat promoting industry. I said, you should start calling this man Dr. Lard of the United Kingdom. And the reason I said you should do this is because in 2011, I wrote a newsletter about Dr. Lard, the original Dr. Lard, and his name is Ronald Krauss, and he works for the atherosclerosis division of Children's Oakland Hospital, and he's been a big shot in the food business for a long time. And I encourage you to read that article. I gave you the link to it. It's not hard to find. Go to my search engine on my website and look up Ronald Krauss. Or I'll tell you what, better yet, go to Google and look up Ronald Krauss. And the article that I wrote about him 5 years ago will appear within the top 4 returns.
It's still there. Wow.
Oh yeah, it'll just pop up right there for you. And boy, oh boy, if somebody labeled me a derogatory term, and I do think lard is derogatory. Lard, well, I can't say it. People get mad. Lard this and lard that and lard that. You know what I mean? Lard is a derogatory term, and I labeled him Dr. Lard in 2011. I waited for his response, and he never made a response. But if somebody called me a name that was inappropriate and derogatory and hurt my reputation, I would respond. At least, you know, a note, if not an attorney or two. But he's never responded because it's true, everything I wrote. I wrote about how Ronald Krauss used to write articles about how atherosclerosis was caused by eating a high meat diet, and that people should eat carbohydrates. And I published, actually, in that article, I gave you the actual link to the article as well as the abstract of the article. So you can just read it right there, how Ron Krauss used to be in favor of what's true. That is, people are dying of eating meat and dairy and so on. And then I give you his bio, two different bios of the man, which shows he works for the dairy industry and the beef industry. And once he was bought out by these two industries, the articles he started publishing were oriented to proving saturated fat, which is equivalent to meat, dairy, and eggs. Saturated fat is good for you. In fact, he published the classic article in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, I think it was in March of 2010, which was paid for by the dairy industry. Just a coincidence, which everybody, including this new doctor, relies upon to prove that saturated fat meat isn't good for you. It was a meta-analysis, which has been highly criticized, which basically is now the leaning post for people who believe that saturated fat is not bad for you. In other words, it's okay to eat meat, dairy, and eggs. They lean on this particular article, and Ronald Krauss was the author behind this. And as a result, he gets the title Dr. Lard. And I have to change it now. I have to change, when I refer to Ron Krauss, big shot Ron Krauss, published in the big medical journals, working for big institutions, including the meat and dairy industry, I have to refer to him now as Dr. Lard of the U.S. Right. And I have to share now, with Nassim Malhotra, he's now Dr. Lard of the United Kingdom. Now, it's kind of interesting. Listeners have brought this to my, people who follow us and email us have brought this to my attention. And they have made some serious complaints to people who are high up in the public health divisions of the United Kingdom. And they're concerned, too, about this message coming out that it's essential for people to eat more meat, dairy, and eggs and fish, and to stay away from carbohydrates.
Right.
And so I think he's a pretty influential guy, the person who has written me letters about what's going on over there, because he wrote Dr. Malhotra. I sent him an email yesterday, and I got the response that this Malhotra sent back to this gentleman who's been emailing me, and he said, "This must be a joke. This is somebody's hilarious blog, right? Hey, buddy, this is no joke." And he wrote back, the guy that's emailing me wrote back to Malhotra and said, "This is no joke. Dr. McDougall is a leading nutritionist worldwide and in the U.S. And, these people have to be stopped. I don't know that writing another article about another Dr. Lard will do anything, because I never got any response for the other one, which has been viewed by millions of people. But, I think people who walk down the halls of his hospital or see him on stage or an audience ought to shout out, "Hey, Dr. Lard of the United Kingdom," or at least think it, because that's who he is. And as I said to the writer, I said, I'm happy to meet with this guy. You get a big enough stage, I'm happy to meet with him. And we'll talk about all the diseases linked by every heart association in the world, about the Cancer Society of the United States and Canada and so on, telling people that these very foods cause breast, colon, and prostate cancer. We'll start there. And then we'll talk a little bit about the cruelty in animal farming and how these products are produced. And then the last thing, and the thing they don't want to talk about, is that these very foods are destroying planet Earth. at a rate that we probably won't be able to stop. Certainly we won't be able to stop unless we stop the livestock industry. So, hey, buddy, and the rest of you Dr. Lards out there, you can come on the webinar. You can get me a platform any place you want that's reasonable. And I'll be there to tell you my side of the story. And or you can believe the meat, dairy, and egg industry, which we've talked about. We've got a suit filed against them for the lies they've done with the U.S. dietary guidelines. But, you know, Gustavo, it just doesn't seem to matter. They're like, you know, what are they call some politicians the Teflon politicians. There's nothing sticks to them. They don't care. They just go out and they put out confusing messages so that nobody will take any action. Nobody will stand up. Well, excuse me, even though it's just a small way, a small contribution I can make, and it gets written off by Mahalter as some hilarious joke of a blog. That's what he thinks this is. You know, I don't have any hesitation to stand up and call these people who and what they are. You know, there are people who are destroying the planet Earth, lying to the public, and killing your spouses, your children, your grandparents by this information that is paid for by industry. I've told you that 92% of the research, current research, is on the goodness of eggs is paid for by the egg industry. Whereas before the 1980s, eggs were used to produce atherosclerosis in animals and people. You know, so they just bought up the research. That's what they've done. And they buy up the media. And then they go on and they say these things that legitimate scientists and researchers, they go, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? This is wrong. But they never take action. They never stand up. And they aren't as unpolitical and as rude. And, you know, they just don't take the same brash attitude I do. But here it stands, Dr. Lard of the United Kingdom. Brand new, get to know him. He's a handsome guy, but he's not telling the truth. And he's working for an organization that's supported by the meat industry and the pharmaceutical companies. And, you know, he's got a cute smile, but he's doing terrible harm to the people of the world and the people of the future, which are my kids and grandkids. And glad to discuss this with him.
Yes, we will extend the invitation. We are extending.
We can do that. We can say, well, maybe he would do a webinar. But, you know, I would really like something bigger.
Right.
You know, I'd really like to have The Guardian, the publication The Guardian, or I'd really like to bring this in front of the USDA or whatever health organization they have in the United Kingdom, or someplace where we can just sit down and say, look, you know, this is how they manipulated the research. This is how they got the results that they got. These are the studies they left out. This is what they tell you to ignore. This is how they're confusing you. They're not telling you about the fact that animal foods, they cause people to get infected with listeria and tuberculosis and mad cow disease and bovine leukemia viruses. Never talk about that. You know, they never talk about the harms to the planet and the harms to the animals, and you know, the real research on heart disease, and what the American Cancer Society says about eating meat, and what the Heart Association says, or you know, they're also being bought by the industries too. So you got to watch. It's all money, ladies and gentlemen.
It is,
and they're killing what we have left on planet Earth. And I'm here, for the record, to say, I'm not going to put up with it. Even though I have a tiny message on this webinar and a tiny message in the newsletter, it does get out to a few, probably sometimes a million people. Help me, stand up. Say, look, McDougall says you're full of, baloney was the word last time I used, but I said, that's not the right word. You know the word I want to use.
We will have to use a beep.
We'll just use some B word, we will. You just tell them, I know what they're full of, and I'm glad to share it with the public. We can do it in writing. We can do it in a webinar. We can do it in front of some legal, judicial thing. I mean, man, you called me Dr. Lard, or of a significance. You can call me Dr. Potato. You can call me Dr. Vegetable. But you call me something that impairs my reputation. I have a team of lawyers. I'd go after you. So, hey, so it stands. I believe today you can still get away with saying the truth, but I may find out different. They got all the money.
Yes, no, but we do have the truth, and I think it does make a difference, Dr. McDougall. And you have all what you said there. I just want to mention that you actually have put it in writing in this wonderful book that has the potato in front of it.
Oh, yeah,
the Starch solution.
I want you to look at something. Another thing that people will get mad at, but you are all my friends. I want you to take a look at that cover a little more carefully.
Yeah.
Okay, take a look at that cover. You see, can you imagine that being a hand?
Uh-huh.
Turn around and look at it. Anyways, I won't go that far.
No.
I didn't design the cover, but all I can say is if you kind of close your eyes a little bit and imagine that was some person's hand with their fingers sticking up, you could get a whole idea about how I feel about it.
You can.
But we're not going to do that. This is not the kind of show that we have. We have a nice family show, don't we?
Exactly. This is a G-rated.
G-rated. But ladies and gentlemen, show them the book cover. Ask them to kind of close their eyes a little bit and imagine what I'm saying to them.
Dr. McDougall, now this is a really nice cover as well.
Yeah, that was when I was like 20 years younger.
Yeah, yeah. And I have
over 20 years ago. Yeah.
I have enjoyed reading this book so much because wow, it just, you present such compelling information here. I've highlighted it. I've underlined it. Would you comment just a little bit, because people have a question about, when you wrote it and
right.
what were you had in mind, and is this something that is a way to jumpstart your weight loss? Can you do this forever?
Yeah, well, it's been one of the biggest sellers for Penguin Putnam for 24 years now. Oh. It's not on a back list, it's on a current list. I mean, this book is easily available on Amazon, and they continue to print edition after edition after edition because it continues to sell. Because like the rest of the books that I've done is I've written what the science says, and the truth doesn't change. I mean, the truth tellers may change, but the truth doesn't change. And I've always been passionate about the scientific research. I just love reading scientific articles and following up leads and so on. And so when I wrote that book, it probably took me a couple of years to research it. I put the solid science in it and what was the truth about the hunger and the stomach size, and that people normally naturally are not fat. I mean, a hippopotamus is a certain size. A great white shark is a certain size. Lions in the jungle are a certain size. They're not fat. If they're starving, they're thin. People are a certain size, and people used to be a certain size. Back primarily before 1980, before industry took over and was able to transport with the aid of technology and fossil fuel, fattening foods to China. There were no fat people in China before 1980. Maybe a few businessmen and women, a few of the leaders who got access to other food other than rice and vegetables that the common person ate. So anyway, people are supposed to be a certain size. And they were at one time, and they would be again. It's not because you're a bad person. It's not because your stomach got stretched out. It's not because you've trained your metabolism to be extra efficient. The reason that you have the problem of being overweight is because of your choice of food. Your taste buds, your hunger drive, your stomach size, your activity level, your appetite, your hormone balances, and also are right. Human beings are perfectly designed, just like our other animals. However, you take these animals out of their environment, like, for example, your dog or your pussycat, and you put them in your house, you start them feeding foods in ways that they weren't designed to eat and kinds that they weren't designed to eat, they get sick. Every pet owner knows that. If not with their pet, with their family's pets or friends' pets. They're sick with kidney disease and sarcomas and too fat to walk around. And this is what has happened to people. We've taken people away from their natural food. And as a result, they're fat and sick. People are starch eaters. I've given you the history all the way from the Aztecs and the Mayans to the people in Thailand and Vietnam. And the Middle East, and so on. Everybody has been a starch eater. That's the human diet. It is cooked starch is what makes the human being what he or she is. Well, anyway, getting back to the book. I wrote a book called The McDougall Plan, which was a New York Times national bestseller. And I think that was published about 1983. A lot of fun. I got to be on the Larry King show. I just had a lot of fun. I was young. I traveled often 2 weeks every month. We were living in Hawaii. And so I'd be gone away from the family and kids for 2 weeks a month and living in hotel rooms. But I was, at an age and stage in my life where this was okay. It wasn't easy for Mary and I and the family, but it was okay. And it became a very famous book. The McDougall Plan, when it was published, I thought it was, of course, a great book. It took me 6 years to write it, and still the data is current and up to date. And when my son read the plan, he said, "Why'd you write the Starch Solution? The plan's a better book." I said, "Well, I really think the Starch Solution is a better book, but you're right, the plan is a great book." And when I went on a tour, I thought there'd be thousands of copies in bookstores all over the country of the McDougall Plan. And what I found out the day I was leaving for my 2-week tour was there were 1,400 books in the whole country. It was deflating to think that that's all they printed. And they did send me on this wonderful tour. And when I got home, they had sold 17,000 books.
Oh, wow.
And so they said, "Thank you very much. We got our money back. Everything's cool." I said, "Wait a minute, Frank." No, Frank was the publisher. I said, "Wait a minute, Frank. I just made you a whole bucket full of money." I said, "I tell you what, I will go on tour again. You don't even have to hire me another PR agent. I will go on tour again. All you have to do is pay for the hotels, the meals, and the airline tickets, and I'll arrange the media myself, because I made great friends on this tour." And I said, "I want you to continue to pay for me to travel as long as when I return, you look at the balance sheet and you see that I've made you more money than I've cost you." And I didn't stop touring for 15 years. Well, anyway, that became a New York Times national bestseller. And then I wrote McDougall's Medicine, which likewise sold, I believe, over 100,000 books. It still is a classic book. And those two books we do have available on our website as PDF downloads. They cost you $10 each. And but well worth the trouble. Great books. You can probably buy them in bookstores. All right. So anyway, I'm getting this following. You're asking how this weight loss, maximum weight loss book come about. I'm getting this following, and people are asking me, "Why don't you write a weight loss book? Why don't you write a weight loss book?" I said, "I'm not a weight loss book doctor. I'm just a general internist trying to take care of people who are sick. And yes, one of the problems is they're too fat." Yeah. We want a weight loss book. So I said, okay. So I wrote McDougall Program for Maximum Weight Loss, and it became a national bestseller, and it still is a big seller, as people know. And I wrote about the weight loss issues, about the hunger drive, and about why people are essentially overweight. And I'm glad you still enjoy it. There's not a word that has to be changed. I mean, the truth is the truth, and it remains the same.
It remains the same, right.
And then what happened is we did, I think it was in 2003, we did a maximum weight loss clinic at our resort. And we told people we were only going to focus on maximum weight loss. Doug Lyle was going to give lectures just about maximum weight loss, and I was going to just talk about maximum weight loss. And we got a big show, big turnout. But we also got in that big turnout, we got two very, very, very thin women. One worried about getting ill, one that was ill. And they threw off our statistics. Our average weight loss in that maximum weight loss program of 7-day interval was 4.5 pounds. But we had two candidates that should have been thrown out in that data. They were both very thin women when they came in. And what happened is they each gained 6 pounds. You see, they were eating a non-starchy vegetable diet. They were trying to live on kale and broccoli and so on because of their health concerns. And they, of course, weren't doing well, and they were too thin. And when we switched them over to starch, they gained up to where they should be. It's just like people who are too fat because they're living on oil and lard and so on. And they're too fat. When you switch the kind of food, they go back down to where they should be. which is what, the size human beings are. And I listed for you a chart that I know many, many of you are still upset about. It's in my November 2015 newsletter, which is Walter Kempner's charts on weight loss.
Right,
and it talks about what Walter Kempner from Duke University. If you don't know who Walter Kempner is and the rice diet, you really need to learn about this man. The greatest nutritional doctor, probably the greatest medical doctor that I've ever had a chance to know about, is Dr. Walter Kempner. It's in my December 2013 newsletter about Kempner, but in my November 2015 newsletter, I published his weight charts about how tall you are and how much you should weigh. And people are upset because the weights are far lower than you would expect. And I say in there, this should not be used as a goal for you to try to lose this much. It's just that if you eat the way I recommend, that's about where you'll weigh. And it is. I mean, as I say in my new book, The Healthiest Diet on the Planet, my maximum weight was 230 pounds. That's what I weighed most when I was in medical school, 230 pounds. And then I usually hovered about 100 in the 190s. That's what I was when Mary and I married for almost 45 years ago. And then once I learned to eat better, I dropped to actually 155. I was in my residency at the John Burns School of Medicine at the University of Hawaii. I was in my medical residency, and I went from probably 190 pounds to 155.
Oh.
And the doctors there actually came to me, several physicians, including my chief of medicine, and came to me and said, we're worried that there's something wrong with you. I said, why? He said, well, you've lost so much weight. And I said, well, I feel just great. And I just changed what I ate. That's all that happened. But they thought I had cancer or AIDS or something like that. And I was windsurfing and having a great time with our. I guess we had 3 kids by then, but I dropped to 155. And then when I was traveling, selling all those books for those 15 years, it was hard to eat out. I was on the road 2 weeks of the year, and there were a couple other issues going on, and I got back up to about 170, 175 pounds. Mm-hmm. And now that my life is a lot more simple and stable, and I don't travel hardly any at all anymore, we hardly ever eat out. And Mary and I do really eat a simple diet. Like I think tonight I know what we're having. We're having the new potatoes, the small potatoes, and she's making a gravy for the top, and I think asparagus. She's in the other room listening, so she may come in and correct me. But that's what we're having for tonight for dinner. Or, we'll have a bean soup over rice that she microwaves from a plastic bag of rice that you get at Whole Foods or something.
Oh yeah, it's simple.
And what do you think? And I eat two or three bowls. I eat as much as I want, and you can weigh me anytime. You could take my blood cholesterol anytime you want to check whether or not to see I'm telling you the truth. And close off, which is the only way I weigh myself, I'm less than 150 pounds, right around 150. And I used to have a cholesterol of 330. Yeah, it was so high, a doctor even warned me about it. Yet the normal at that time was above 350. Right, and I was about 22 years old, and I already had a stroke at 18. And the doctor said, 230 is a bit high. And I said, oh, well, what about it? I already had a stroke. And I just didn't take it seriously. You can walk up to me any day on the street, any place you want, and take my blood. And it'll be, it's been between 151 and 137 for the last probably 15 years. Last time I checked, it was 137, and I don't take pills for cholesterol. I just eat this kind of food. So anyway, I would say Mary and I don't eat the maximum weight loss program in the sense that we will have bread quite often that we buy from the store. I will eat sometimes peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. No butter, of course. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what else. Maybe some few other things, but there's no reason for me to be. In fact, I'll eat some nuts at times because I would like to keep my weight no lower than it is. But I'm fine. And I think, there are a lot of people who, as they naturally get older, tend to lose some weight. Believe it or not, I'm getting older. So if you want to really push it, the first thing I would tell you to do, if you want success, the first thing I tell you to do is simplify your diet. And make sure starch is a very large part of your diet, because if you don't have enough starch, if you do these nutritarian type diets, or people are pushing kale and broccoli and cauliflower on you, you're going to starve to death. You know, these foods, plain and simple, are not intended for anything but a side dish. No population of people ever lived on kale or lettuce,
No.
you know, or broccoli. And these are very expensive plant foods to produce and for you to buy. Starch is cheap. You know, you get a bag of potatoes at Costco, or a bag of beans, or you know, these are like 10, 20, 25 pound bags for like a few dollars. You feed your family for a month for a few dollars. And so that's why it has to be on starch. You buy these spinach leaves and kale and these kind of, quote, nutrient-dense, not starchy vegetables. They're very expensive. And they don't produce the calories that you couldn't feed the human population on kale, but you could feed it on potatoes.
Right.
So anyway, so the first thing I tell you, if you want to get the diet to work for you, and particularly if your goal is weight loss, make sure you make your diet very simple, like I just told you: potatoes and beans and rice and some beans and sweet potatoes and broccoli and things like that. Make it simple. Put a little salt on it if you're salt tolerant. A little bit of simple sugar on the surface if that's what you need to make it go down.
Yeah.
You remember the Mary Poppins?
The song.
A little bit of sugar makes the medicine go down. Well, you know, you have sweet buds on the taste of your tongue. You have salt buds on the taste of your tongue. Salt taste buds on the taste of your tip of your tongue. So, you know, add a little salt or sugar to the surface of the food, your favorite spices, and make it simple. Okay, you say you want to push it, and that's what the Maximum Weight Loss book is about.
What would be the main difference between these two books, or whatever?
Or the orientation.
You can compare.
Well, in some ways, I wish I had never written the Maximum Weight Loss book, because the main difference is it tells people to eat more like those out there teaching nutritarian diets. In fact, I do believe that if you look through my Maximum Weight Loss book and you're aware of other people, famous diet doctors on our side of the fence who teach plant-based diets, you will see that their books are basically a copy of my Maximum Weight Loss book.
Right.
The third stage of it, teaching you to eat lots of broccoli and cauliflower. So I'm not going to name who their names are, but you can figure out who they are if you think about it. And that book was written long before they ever thought of putting their programs out. So anyways, it tells you to eat more of these, quote, nutrient-dense, calorie insufficient, non-starchy, green and yellow, red, purple vegetables. To fill up your stomach, to lose weight faster. But the problem is if you don't get the starch in, you're just hungry, and it just doesn't work. And so that's why so many of these people who have been on these nutritarian or high green and yellow vegetable diets, just, you know, they want to do it. They want to be healthy. You know, they want to save the planet. They want to stop killing the animals. They want to do all the right things, but they just can't do it because they're not satisfied. It's just not doing it for them. It's because you are a starch eater. So that's one regret I have for writing that book is it gave way to the new diets that focus on these leafy vegetables and nutrient-dense vegetables.
Yeah, and maybe that's one reason why people, I'm sure you've heard this a lot of times. I know that Dr. Lyle and Jeff Novick and Chef AJ, and even I heard this a lot of times. People that come and say, I'm obese, I need to lose 100 pounds. I follow the program strictly, and I can't lose 1 pound. What do you say?
What do I say to them? You know, I hate to say anything because they take it as a criticism.
It does.
But the first thing I have said on occasion, I would say, look, I'm trying to be helpful, not hurtful. So do understand, nobody gets calories from air.
Right.
It has to be coming through your mouth from the food, is what I tell them. And the second thing I tell them is you do not violate the laws of thermodynamics. In other words, you know, what goes in must come out in the form of energy or fat storage or something. You do obey. You are not a special creature who can live on 800 calories a day. You know, so the problem is, and I have to say it, please, you know me, I don't mean to be offensive. I'm always politically correct. But the problem is I have heard from some people who worked with Walter Kempner that he used to have a famous saying.
Okay.
All dieters are liars. and in a way, I think it is so true. Now, it's not like you lie, like purposely lie.
No.
But you know, you just kind of think things that you have read otherwise, or haven't understood, or have chosen not to understand, or so on. So when people say that to me, Gustavo, and they look me right in the eye and they say, "I eat everything you say. I'm 100% McDougall, and I'm 100 pounds overweight, and I've been doing this for 2 years, and I haven't lost an ounce." You know, I don't say anything.
No.
And I roll my eyes back a little bit. I try not to. I don't say anything, and you know, but then they come back like AJ. She's a perfect example, and she'll tell you. That's what those are.
Oh, yeah.
She may not have used the exact quote I just said. I follow you 100%, and I'm 50 pounds or overweight, and I don't cheat at all, and I can't lose weight. But she'll tell you that you know, she's quite thin. I'm sure she well meets Kempner's recommendations in terms of weight.
Yes.
I mean, she's just a very trim. And eats as much as she wants. So she'll tell you right to your face.
Large quantities of food.
She'll tell you. You know what? I don't know that she'll use these words or what would be comfortable for her. I don't want to put words in her mouth, but basically she'll say that I didn't understand before, or I wasn't really being upfront with myself when I said what I said, because now I know what the truth is, and that is that you have to be a starch eater. You can emphasize some of these green and yellow vegetables, and she does more than I do, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't violate the laws of thermodynamics.
No.
You don't get calories out. And this is a true story. When I was in Honolulu, so this was back maybe not about 1984. There was this fellow who made newspapers. You know, they made newspaper headlines in the Honolulu Star Bulletin and advertising, just like this guy makes headlines in the Guardian. This Malhotra guy. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is how he made headlines. He said, and he'd go out and give lectures. I mean, this is the kind of garbage. There's the word I can use: garbage.
Garbage, yes.
Garbage, just fine. This guy. He would get newspaper stories and give lectures, and he claimed that he was a breatharian.
Oh,
he lived off of air, and of course, you had to have a certain mental attitude. And you had to learn from him the skills of being. Well, one thing that happened was a reporter caught him going down to 7-Eleven. In the middle of the night and buying candy bars, and that made the newspaper too. And I thought that was so funny. But there are people really who have in the past. I don't know who's doing it now. They claim they're breatharians. They can live off air. Well, you know, there are people who claim that carbohydrates are bad for you, and you should be eating what the meat, dairy, egg, and fish industry sell. Right. Because it's good for you. Well, you know what? Makes as much sense as being a breatharian.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. Well, I was one of them, Dr. McDougall. I have to admit, for like 30 years or more, most of my life, I've been overweight. I think now, as you know, and everybody knows, I've lost 70 pounds and I've kept them off. But I was one of them. I follow everything, and I was certain that there was something wrong with my genes.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until I was in a controlled environment like your 10-day program where the light bulb was turned on, and I realized what it was that I was doing wrong, not eating enough starches. But I wanted to touch on that question because people ask it a lot, and it's not that you're saying that they are liars, but I'm not trying to be uncomplimentary. I really, please do understand, I'm not trying to be insulting. I just don't like beating around the bush, so to speak. And I think what needs to be said needs to be said. Just like when I call in the chapter in my book, The Starch Solution, I have a chapter titled The Fat Vegan. And I have a newsletter of The Fat Vegan. I talk about fat vegans. And when fat vegans really understand what I'm saying, because they don't want to be fat. They want to save the environment. They want to save animals. When they get it, they get their eyes open. They're always thankful. And nobody has ever come to me and said,
you know, that was a nasty thing to do, to say fat vegan. I've never heard that from anybody, but I've heard people say, thank you. You identified exactly who I was, and now I've got it fixed.
Yes, exactly. Well, I think, I don't know, do you have I know you have to go, but I don't know if you have time for a question or two.
Yeah, I think it's good. I think you probably got me a little excited this morning.
Yeah, it did get excited. There is one thing in this book that people also ask, and I just want to touch quickly on this. There is a study that you mentioned about bread and people that were following a standard American diet, eating all the junk basically, and they were given bread and they lost weight. Can you put that in perspective, as for example, someone like you or me who follow a plant-based?
You can read that study. It's easy to find. It's in the American Journal of
But I would probably gain weight now that I follow.
Well, if you ate bread, I don't think you would.
If I eat that amount of bread.
I don't think so. I really don't think so. No, I really don't. As long as you don't put peanut butter and jelly on it.
Okay, well, it depends what we put.
Yeah, and you eat an oil-free bread and a fairly whole grain bread. This is a study that was published at the university that I went to for undergraduate and graduate, Michigan State University. And it was published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, I believe, in 1978. But anyway, you can find it. It's easy to find. It's a study of overweight college men, feeding them 12 slices of bread a day. And they took men just like myself. I mean, the finishing touches for my stroke was the cafeteria food served to me at Snyder Hall at Michigan State University. You know, the dormitory food, if you ever had the experience, you can eat as much as you want. It is as greasy as you can imagine. Well, they took men in dormitories at Michigan State University, and they asked them to do just one thing. They didn't ask them to cut out meat, dairy, oil, stop eating the French fries, nothing else. They just said, what we want you to do is to eat 12 slices of bread a day. And they had two phases, one with white bread and one with what they called unrefined or less refined, brown bread. Right. And you had to eat 12 slices of bread a day for 8 weeks. That's all. And then they measured their cholesterols and they weighed them. Those who had to eat 12 slices of white bread in that 2-month period of time, they lost an average of 14 pounds. On the brown bread, the average weight loss was 19 pounds in 8 weeks. Just unconsciously, by adding bread. And what happened when they added the bread is they displaced the more fattening foods. So you added carbohydrate, which is very difficult to turn into fat. We've talked about that. Sugar does not turn into fat in any great amount in the human being. And so they added carbohydrate, and bread was naturally low fat. So it displaced the pork chops and the eggs and the bacon and the other things that the men were eating. And by the way, their cholesterols dropped about 50 points in the brown bread group. And surprisingly so, and I don't know why, and I've seen this in several other studies, those eating the white bread got a 76-point drop, 76 milligram per deciliter drop in cholesterol. And I've seen that in other studies where they look at cholesterol drops feeding various kinds of grains, either more refined or less refined. And somehow or another, those eating more refined get better lipid drops. And I don't know why. Maybe there is an explanation, but I've seen it enough times to think that it's something that should be noted and someone should give an explanation for it. But anyways, in the Starch Solution book, I think it's on page 23 or page 19, I offer a Starch challenge, and that is those of you who are not willing right now or able right now to buy into all of my, what did I call it? Not baloney or garbage, to buy into all my garbage. And if you want, just add 600 to 900 calories, which is what it was with this bread. Just add 600 to 900 calories of another starch, like you could add 4 cups of rice. You got to eat 4 cups of rice. Or you could add 4 cups of potato, or 4 potatoes, or 4 cups of corn, or 3 cups of beans, peas, or lentils, which adds up to 600 to 900 calories of extra starch. You can still eat the bacon and the eggs and the pork chops and your steaks and your greasy whatever. So you can still do that, but you have to eat this extra starch. And you will get similar results to the overweight men that were presented in that study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, and I believe the date was 1978. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it's just the way it is. It's not an all or nothing thing. I prefer to be for you because I think that you will be better able to do all or nothing. As I've told you before, you know, I smoke 1 Marlboro cigarette or 0 Marlboro cigarettes, or I smoke 40 Marlboro cigarettes. Right. I do nothing in between. Thank goodness I had my last one October 20th, 1972. You know, and it's that way with alcohol. You either have 0 alcohol for many of us, or you drink a half a bottle of gin. And that's just the way it is. And for those of you who are, quote, addicted to cakes and pork chops and cheese sandwiches and so on, you know, if you're like the rest of us addicts, you know, get real. You know, just stop eating at 100% because, oh, that just is a little. I know there's a pepperoni pizza in the refrigerator, but I'm just to take one bite. My goodness, I'll tell you, one time that pizza would have been gone in my house.
Oh yeah, exactly.
You know, just say no.
Just say no. Yeah, most of us don't have the control.
There are very few moderate people. Someday I'll probably tell you a story about my moderate great grandmother, but I'm not a moderate person. I don't do things reasonably, sensibly. What you may think to be normally, but it's not normal to be moderate. Most of us are very enthused.
Exactly. Well, Dr. McDougall, thank you so much. We appreciate it. We will probably do another time with this topic because people have so many questions. And
well, it always works. That's one of the things that I have to tell people by email messages or when I look them in the eye. It always works. You know, you just have to do it. I've never seen it fail. People have said to me they have eating disorders. They're food addicts. I say, well, here, see that right over there? That's a bushel basket full of baked potatoes. Go for it.
Right.
In fact, I'll end this because I know you got to get on to the cooking segment. As I tell people, look, we'll make a deal. If you're 100 pounds overweight, you can eat as much food as you want over the next 6 months, and I'll bet you the value of my house. I live in California, so my house was more than $1 million. So I'll bet you the value of my house against $1 million of yours that you can eat as much food as you want for the next 6 months and you will lose 60 pounds. Do you want to make that bet? Now, here's the deal. I don't trust you, so I'm going to lock you up in a cell with a toilet and a sink and a TV set and a treadmill that powers the TV set. And I'll have a little hole in the gated door, the door that you can't get out of, and I'll shove through 17 buckets of potatoes for you a day. Mm-hmm. If you want. You better sign the check because I'm getting $1 million.
Oh, yeah, it always works.
All right. We always have so much fun, Gustavo. I want to thank you very much.
Oh, no, thank you.
Giving us all
and please tell us when the next 2 10-day programs are.
We're running one in June. I think it's almost sold out. So it may be sold out. But we're running one in June, and I don't know. You know,
I think June 3rd is one.
June 3rd, June 3rd we start one.
And then there's one in August, and people can go to your website and
then we have a great advanced study weekend. I just can't. I got to talk to you about what we're going to do.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be so unique. We're going to have. Well, I'll tell you about the things that I have planned. Yes, it's going to be an amazing advanced study weekend in September. And then we're going to Kauai in in January of 2017. And then Mary's planning. So maybe you could give us some feedback, you know, drop us a note on Facebook or an email note to us. She's planning right now to take one of the national anyway, the famous ship lines. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The National Geographic ships, the same one we're taking to Alaska next month, which has been sold out. That trip sold out in 24 hours. She's taking the same ship line, if everything works out for us in Alaska, in, I believe, 2017. She's hired the entire ship, and is in the process of doing it, to take us down the coast of Costa Rica and through the Panama Canal. Now, it's not going to be an inexpensive trip. I think the cabins start at $6,000 or $7,000 per person. I don't know. I don't want to give you false information, but it will be expensive like Alaska was, but and it's gonna sell out just like that. I'll tell you. So we have those 2 adventure trips planned, and I don't know what else we're going to do. We're not going to be as regular on adventure trips as we were in the past.
Right. Well, thank you again. We appreciate it. We'll see you next week. And
are you going to do some cooking now?
It's lunchtime here in Dallas, and I'm really hungry. So what I thought I was going to do is for everybody, I'm going to show you my kitchen here, and I'm going to make 2 or 3 quick things from the newsletter from last month.
Good for you. I will watch it a little bit later.
You'll watch it later, yeah. And so if you
actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in. Mary's watching this presentation right now in the other room, so I'll go in and watch it with her. Anyway, thank you for the great time.
Yeah, and everybody else that is watching the webinar, don't feel you need to. You can watch it later as well. I'm just gonna pause for like 2 minutes to move my laptop, and I'll be right back. Thank you again, Dr. McDougall, for a great webinar. I appreciate it. Okay. All right, so we're here, and this is my small kitchen here, and I have the starch board. Let's see. I'm gonna put this on, and so what I did was I printed the newsletter for this month, and right here I print double-sided to save paper, and I don't have a lot of time. I have to go back to work, unfortunately. Or well, fortunately, I still love what I do. I teach piano, but I would love to cook some more. But I'm going to do 2 things. I'm going to do the artichoke spread here because, as it says here, it can be used for a variety of things. So I can use it as a dip for vegetables. I can put it on crackers. I can make sandwiches or pita stuff with vegetables. And so I'm going to make that one. It's supposed to take about very little time. And I will make the quick asparagus soup. So make sure that you go and that you print, that you can either print them or use your phone, whatever. They're great. This is a free newsletter you all can sign up for. Okay, so I'm going to make the soup first, and the soup calls for the following. We need to put 2 cups of vegetable broth, 2 cups of chopped asparagus stalks. I already did it, so because I didn't want you to be looking at me chopping asparagus for 10 minutes. It also calls from 1.5 cups of frozen chopped hashed brown potatoes. Those I have in my freezer all the time, and so I just measure 1.5 cups here. And we need a cup of water. We need a cup of the asparagus tips. So the tips are here, and this is a cup. And then we need 1 cup of soy or rice milk. I have rice milk. And then we need 1/2 cup of chopped fresh basil. And here it is. So what we're going to do is place the broth, the asparagus stalks, and the potatoes in a medium pan, and we're going to bring them to a boil. And then we're going to reduce the heat, and we're going to let it cook for 5 minutes until the asparagus is tender. And so that's what I'm going to do. Let's see if I can move this a little closer. This is the 2 cups of vegetable broth I'm going to put in this pan. And the asparagus stalks, which is right here. And the potatoes, which is right here. And I'm going to bring that to a boil. And then when it's boiling, I will reduce the heat. I'm going to show you what I do while this is cooking, because I have to maximize my time and make several things so that I have it for a couple of days. Okay, so that's going. While that is getting to the boiling point, it says, meanwhile, place the water and asparagus tips in a small saucepan. So that's what I'm going to do. This is 1 cup of water. Here are the asparagus tips. We're just going to cook them a little bit, maybe 5 minutes to get them a little bit tender. Okay, so that's it. Easy enough. Okay, so that's going to have to. While that is happening, I'm going to tell you what I do just about every day. Okay, one of the best things I ever purchased is this. This is truly amazing. Nothing will stick to it. You can cook anything in the oven and nothing will stick to it. You put it in under the water and it's clean. And so this is something that I use every single day. Saucepan. I think I bought it at Bath and Beyond. That's what I think I bought it. I should get another one. So I put it in this pan. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my roasted veggies. And unfortunately, I don't have time to chop them. I just buy these huge bags of frozen vegetables. And what I do is I just put them here in the. This one has broccoli, cauliflower, carrots, and I'll tell you how I use this. So I'm just gonna, while the other things are getting cooked, I will put this in the oven, and I usually chop an onion, and it just smells so good. People going by, they always comment that there's this wonderful smell coming out of my loft here, and it's just vegetables. It's nothing fancy. I turn on the oven to 400, and there they go. So I'll tell you what I do with this. I'm just going to put a little. Sometimes I actually chop 1 or 2 potatoes, kind of small, and I also put them here so that there is some starch. But if not, I'll tell you what I do for the starch later. So this is going to the oven at 400. It usually takes 45 minutes to an hour. You'll just see, you know. So now I have that going. And the other thing that I do several times a week, if not every day, is okay, so this is always here. There's always sweet potatoes at Tolosa home. And these are the Japanese potatoes. These are actually, I just forgot the name of them. So if any of you, AJ, if you're out here, if you type the name, I can't remember the name of this sweet potato. But there's at least 4 or 5 kinds available at Whole Foods. So what I'm going to do is going to put this one here. Put this one here. Sometimes I put 3 or 4 of these on that sheet where I'm cooking the vegetables, but since it's busy, I'm just going to use this so that I can cook. Now I'm cooking 2 things. When these are done, this is the meal that I make with these. This is sweet potatoes with a nice big side of steamed broccoli. That is actually a lunch or a dinner. But most likely, I will eat both of them. I don't eat one. So I eat 2 of these with broccoli. There aren't enough calories and to make you fat. So don't worry about being fat by eating sweet potato. All right, so those are boiling here. So I'm going to lower the heat and cook for 10 minutes. It's about medium heat now. So these are my sweet potatoes here. Let's see, 10 minutes. Okay. All right, so just so that you know what I've been doing. So I just cooked I put the veggies to cook over there. When those are done, what I do with those roasted vegetables is I will put them on top of brown rice, a lot of it. And sometimes I will put some barbecue sauce. It makes those vegetables taste great. I also can put them on baked potatoes. What else do I do? I just eat them by themselves. Sometimes that's my breakfast, actually. So that is just one meal, because the whole pan, I just eat it all. And then I'm making the sweet potatoes. That's another meal with the broccoli that takes like 5 minutes to do the steam. So we're gonna let that cook for 10 minutes. While that is happening, let's see here. I'm gonna start making the artichoke spread. Okay, so here we go. We need, while that's cooking, we're gonna make the artichoke spread. 2 14-ounce cans of artichoke hearts in water, and then drain and rinse. So I did that. Here are the artichokes. This is 2 cans, 14 ounce each. They're washed, they're drained, they're rinsed. So here they go. And we're gonna put this in the food processor here. Here. Let's see. That's the 2 cans. Now we need 1 can, 15 ounce of the white beans, also rinsed. So here they are, rinsed. White beans. I use canola beans. You can use any kind of white beans. I like this because it doesn't have tofu, because I just don't like tofu, but nothing else. I mean, I don't think it's particularly bad for you, but I don't really like it. So then you were supposed to put here 4 tablespoons of lemon juice, which is right here. I squeezed it myself this morning. And 2 cloves of garlic crushed. Which is right here. I put a little more than 2 because I like garlic a lot. So I put like 3. So that's up to you. And 4 green onions chopped. So, this to me is so cool, because it's a recipe, just like composing music. You put a 4 chord and a 5 chord, and you invert the 1 6 4, and then you put 4 quarter notes and 8 16 notes, and then you end up with this. And so it's kind of the same way. You're just composing music with vegetables here, and I love it. And then we need 1 tablespoon of soy sauce, but I don't have soy sauce, and I've stopped using it because I couldn't find one that doesn't have low sodium. So I'm using this. It tastes almost the same as a soy sauce, so that's what I'm using. 1 tablespoon. So you see how easy it is. That's all. We just dumped everything in the food processor here, and that's it. So we're going to put the lid on the food processor here, and so according to this recipe here, let's see. It says put everything. see what else. I want to make sure that I put everything. The artichokes, the beans, the lemon juice, the garlic. Okay. Oh, the cayenne pepper. I forgot that. Okay, so just 1/8 of a teaspoon. Obviously, very, very little. I have tried this before. It is very strong. I don't like spiciness, so I just have to be very careful not to put too much. Okay, so that's it. And you guys, I'm originally from Argentina. We don't eat spicy foods there. It's not spicy at all. All right, so now basically we just, it says the directions say combine all ingredients in a food processor and process until smooth. Let's see. Okay, I'm just going to open it and get the sides just to make sure that everything is there. Oh, yeah. This looks like one of those artichoke spreads that you get in a restaurant, but without all the fat in it. And who knows what else, all the preservatives, and who knows what else they put. Okay, here we go. All right, well, time to try it. I wish you all were here so that you could try it, but I will sacrifice for you and we'll do it. The beans give it the consistency of the creaminess, and it has just enough spice, just enough. That tastes very good, actually. Since, like I said, since I have to go to work and I work until 9 p.m. tonight, I'm gonna eat. I'm not gonna stop myself, but I'm gonna eat until very comfortably full. So what I'm gonna do, since I don't have pita, I'm going to make a sandwich. This is what I'm gonna do. I'll show you how I'm gonna make the sandwich. So this is completely whole wheat bread, and I found one that has 0 sodium because, believe it or not, bread is one of the things that has the most amount of sodium, believe it or not. Even, I think I heard Jeff Novick says that bread has more sodium than potato chips, because potato chips have salt on the surface, and the bread and the salt is baked in the bread and usually has more. But this one doesn't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in the oven. Since the oven is hot, I'm going to toast it. See, I use all the resources here. I like to use the oven for as many things as possible. Okay, so I put 4 slices because I might just have to eat 2. And so as soon as that is done, what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to make a sandwich like it says here in the newsletter, using chopped tomatoes, cucumbers, and sprouts. So now I'm going to give you the secret of all times. You probably I don't think anybody knows this. This is something that my grandmother from Spain did every single time she had to use a cucumber, because you know how sometimes cucumbers can be very bitter. Okay, you will never, ever again have to eat a bitter cucumber. What you do is you cut the end and you rub it. Yes, it's not magic or anything weird. I don't know what it does, but I have never had a bitter cucumber. Now, this is what you will see. You will see something white, and that is the bitterness, and you wash it. I will probably go ahead and cut the other end and do the same. It's probably a little bit like that. Sometimes a lot of this comes off. That means that the cucumber was quite bitter. So, okay, so now we don't have to worry about that. I just like to use this and do a few stripes. And so I don't completely peel it all off. I wash it. This is organic, and I bought this nice organic tomato as well. So I'm going to take this off the heat now, and I'm going to do the soup, and then I'm going to make the sandwich. Although I'm kind of starving here, but I will do the soup. Okay. So it says, remove from heat and puree until smooth. I'm going to take this one off. I'm going to put the small bowl in. This is the, oh, if you could smell this. This is the asparagus stalks with the potatoes and the broth. And Chef AJ shows you how to make your own broth if you go to her webinars on her page. I'm not going to go over that. And I'm going to put this in the blender. So what I like about this soup is that it already has starch in it. Of course, then you can put this soup on top of a sweet potato or on top of a potato and get some extra starch, or you can put it on top of rice, let's say, or any other type of starch. So we need to puree until smooth. We're going to puree that. Let me pulse it first. Okay. Very good. So now what we do with this pureed soup here is I will put it back in a pan. And we're going to add the milk to this. I think it needs the, yes. Okay. So we need to add the rice milk. And it just asks for a cup of rice milk. And let's see, yeah, 1 cup. Mix well. And now we get to add the fresh basil that I chopped earlier. And that is half a cup of chopped fresh basil. So now this is all the asparagus, the rice milk, and the fresh basil here, and we mix it well. And now what we do is we add the asparagus tips, and that's it. To rinse the asparagus tips here, I'm going to rinse it. And we're going to put the tips that are nice and tender here. And you can add any other spices now. I'm not too big on spices, so I probably won't add much, but this is for those of you who don't want to use salt. You want to use Mrs. Dash, the original blend. I think I'm just going to put a little bit of that and stir it. I'm going to put it on medium heat, and I'm going to eat that. Probably more like in low heat. So what I'm going to do now to finish, because I know this is going long, is that I'm going to make my sandwich, and then I'll let you all go, guys. Okay, let's see here. So I'm just going to put nice amount of this artichoke spread on this whole wheat, zero sodium bread. Now you may wonder what it is. Okay, I'll tell you the secret. You can buy it almost in any Whole Food or any other health store. It's the famous Ezekiel bread. Okay, that's what it is. So it's the original, and it has pretty much calories 80. Yeah. Almost everything is zero, so basically you're eating air, which is great. And just kidding. And then I'm gonna get a nice sharp knife, and I'm going to slice this ripe, delicious here tomato, and I'm gonna put it on the sandwich here. I'm going to put 2 slices, maybe 1. Try to cut them as thin as possible. And with a little bit of the Mrs. Dash fake salt, but it tastes great. Then a few slices of the cucumber. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see how that looks. Great. And then I'm going to get some sprouts here. Let's see. This is an unopened box that I just got the other day. And we're going to put some sprouts. And there it is. So let's see here. Just gonna cut it. I have to take 1 bite. The soup is already done, so I'm gonna eat the soup as well. I will let you all go, guys, and let's see how this tastes. Oh my God. Okay, I have to turn off the computer so I can pig out on this, okay? I'll see you all next week. Every now and then, maybe once a month, I'm going to do a little cooking demo using the recipes that appear in the newsletter. Go and get the newsletter. Go sign up for the free newsletter. Maybe once a month, I will also play the piano for you. If you have a requested song, that's an extra $10. No, just kidding. And well, bon appetit. Buen appetito. I'll see you all next week. I love you all. Be careful. Eat starch. Eat potatoes. Eat sweet potatoes. Eat broccoli. Eat kale. Goodbye.